years ago, back in 2017, Honda added the Civic hatchback to its lineup as an homage to the original Civic hatchbacks in Europe, and it is our first ever 5-door Civic hatchback in the United States. So, for 2019, Honda did add a little bit of tech and goodies to the Civic as a little mid-cycle refresh. So today I have a 2019 Civic hatchback Sport in Rally Red to show you guys, and just see what Honda's added to the new model year and to see if this might be the Civic for you. Let's get started. So starting up front, it pretty much looks identical to the 2018 because they didn't do much on the outside for the 2019 Civic hatchbacks, but the sedans, there's some slightly reworked front bumpers and stuff in the rear and in the front. Looks pretty nice, but so far on this model it looks just like the last model year, just like I said. So the first thing that you'll notice is that you have these LED daytime running lights, which are pretty bright during the day and complete the look. I'm glad that even on the lower end sport model you still have the LED daytime running lights. But as for headlights, you get regular halogen low beam and high beams, but the low beams are projectors and the high beams are reflectors. And you have an incandescent turn signal bulb. Personally, if this was my car, I'd do a full LED overhaul, just like how I did on my car. And you also have halogen fog lights below, which are standard on sport models and above, which is nice. And specifically on sport models, and I believe the Sport Touring, the grille is all blacked out, which looks pretty nice compared to the full chrome that you'll see on the regular Civic hatchbacks and sedans that are rolling around the road. But I really like the black. It's painted, it's still that same material. It's a plastic, and some places it could fit better than others, but it doesn't look cheap and it doesn't look bad, so that's my main concern. You also have a little front lip over here which looks pretty nice, which only comes out on the Sport. Coming around the side, you have these 18-inch alloy wheels, which you'll find on many different Civic models. You'll find them on the Sport sedan, the Sport hatchback, the Sport Touring hatchback, the Touring sedan, and the SI, but they're all in their own different colors. They're wrapped around 235/40 R18 tires, and so far on the drive to my little spot here, these tires actually are really good. It does get loose a little bit, which I'll go over later on in the video, but for what they are, I believe they're all seasons. They're actually really good. And last but not least, in the back of the Civic, the rear end of these 10th gen Civics are actually pretty distinguishable, which I like a lot, because you have this whole LED band, the C-shape LED band for the taillights, and it's LED. I just said that. But the brake lights are incandescent bulbs, but the taillights are LEDs, and the turn signals and reverse lights are incandescent bulbs, which are other things that I would replace. But you do have some LED corner lights and LED license plate lights, which do give it a better feeling, but I would like to see some LEDs being used a little bit more, just because they're brighter, so it's a little bit safer, and they just look better. You'll also see that you have more black trim, special for the Sport hatchback on the Civic. Actually, all hatchbacks get the dark trim for the grille, so I just remember that. But only on the Sport models, you'll see you have a dual exhaust that comes out the middle, which adds maybe 5 horsepower to the 174 horsepower turbo engine that this car already has. So we'll see how it sounds. And like I said, you have a bunch of different little lips here. It's kind of really busy. One thing I don't like about these 10th gen Civics, the sedans and the hatchbacks, is I don't remember necessarily on the sedans what if they've changed it, but this whole honeycomb here is a big wad of plastic, and I don't really like it just because, I don't know, it kind of makes the rear end look a little bit busy, but I do kind of like how these hatchbacks look, but this is just one complaint that I have. So since we're already in the back of the Civic, let's talk about the trunk. So you get a pretty decent amount of cargo room behind the rear seats and behind the driver and passenger seats. You could fit a few teddy bears and a few bodies, or you could sleep back here if you really wanted to. It's a 60-40 split bench. The headrests don't move, that's just an observation. And you have this sliding tonneau cover, which you can just pick up and throw away if you want to. Or you can move it on either side. They just click into place like so, and underneath you have a space saver spare tire and your toolkit and the tow hook, and also you have this funnel. So let's say you run out of gas, you use this funnel to put gas in the car with a gas can, and all you have to do is put this in here and it defeats all the little locks that you have, and you can pour the gas in. Because if you just put the gas can in there, there's a bunch of little locks that won't let you put anything inside of it. So that's actually pretty nice. And like I said, it is capless, and you just click it, at least on the hatchback, you just click the gas can open and it locks with the doors as well. So as we get inside of the Civic, since this is the Sport, you don't get the smart key system, so you just get the regular traditional key. So you have your lock, unlock, trunk release, and panic button. This really just unlocks the trunk. It doesn't pop the trunk, but just unlock it. You do have automatic lights, which is nice, and you don't have the smart key like I said. So looking at the interior, you have the black cloth interior, which is actually pretty nice, and it feels pretty durable, and the quality feels pretty nice as well. Looking at the door panel, it's all soft touch materials up here. You have some dark brushed aluminum trim, which is plastic, but it looks nice. All the materials look nice in the car, and you have a plastic material over here and cloth inserts for the armrests. Over here you have your window controls. The driver and passenger side windows are automatic, but the rears are not. There's your window locks, door locks, and the mirror controls over here. There's a bottle holder and some storage down there. Now looking at the seat, both seats are fully manual. So this is for the height, this is for reclining the seat, and then to slide it forward and backwards, it's over here. But the seats are actually pretty supportive and pretty comfortable. Like I said, it's the black and carbon fiber looking material that is only on the Sport, so the carbon fiber insert is in the middle. Well, carbon fiber looking insert, but the seats are actually pretty supportive, especially on the side bolsters here and for the thighs as well. So since this car doesn't have push button start, just the traditional key, just put your foot on the brake and then twist the key to start it. And like I said, you do have the 1.5 liter turbo engine. And closing the door sounds pretty nice. I like Honda's newer quality door thuds. So if you're familiar with last gen Civic hatchback or just the Civic in general, you should be pretty much at home in this car. There's only a few different buttons and stuff, but the overall atmosphere of the Civic hatchback, I really like it. Everything is just feels pretty nice even for this lower spec model. The dash is soft touch. You have some fake carbon fiber over here. The glove box is not damped, but you do have a pretty decent amount of storage. It's actually pretty big in there, and you could fit a lot of things in there. But it isn't damped, which it's not too bad, but I would like if they did that. One thing that I can first notice is that you can definitely see the fenders when you're sitting in the driver's seat, which is actually kind of cool. Makes you feel like you're in a muscle car, but you're not. So looking at these buttons over here, this is for your pre-collision braking to turn it on and off, lane departure warning, traction control off. Your headlight stalk is right here, and your wiper stalk is right here. You do have automatic headlights and auto high beams as well, which is nice. And this is the same steering wheel that you'll find on pretty much every other Civic, and the CR-V, and the horn has a little meep meep horn, so I would change that out, but whatever. But you do have paddle shifters on each side of the wheel, so downshift and upshift over here. And you do have a sport mode, but it is a CVT, so while we're already here, and when you put the car into reverse, you have a backup camera with guidance lines, but they don't steer with the wheel. But you can change the views, so there's a wide view, top-down view, and a normal view, which is nice. So even with this 5-inch screen, you still have a pretty decent amount of stuff in here. But coming back to the steering wheel, your volume and audio controls are over here, and this controls the center display up here. If you just press this little information button, it goes to stuff like a boost gauge, which it shows it better while you're driving. The maintenance minder, settings, and this converts your units to miles to kilometers and back to your vehicle information. And over here is your volume slider, and there's the Bluetooth phone buttons to pick up, hang up, and voice control. And over here are your cruise control buttons, so you have set, resume, cancel. This is your adaptive cruise control, and your lane keep assist button, and the cruise control main button, which turns everything on or off. Coming to the center, like I said, you have Honda's 5-inch display, which you'll see on pretty much all of their base model vehicles, but it actually is pretty nice to use. And the audio system is the base audio system, which sounds actually pretty decent for what it is. I believe it's 180 watts or something like that, but it sounds really nice, especially with songs with bass like R&B and stuff like that. Down here you have single zone climate control, and it is automatic, which is nice. So this is the temperature right here, and this is the fan speed over here, and the on and off button, and the auto button is right there. These buttons control different things for the climate control, like recirc, front and rear defrost, the modes, and the AC on-off button. Over here, you have some storage where you could put your phone, and there's a little USB slot right here, which makes it nice. And down here, you have 2 USB ports and a power outlet. And like I said, this is the transmission selector, so it is a CVT. It's not too bad, but I don't like CVTs personally. There's the brake hold button, the parking brake, which is electronic, and the econ button over here, which just makes the car feel really mushy. Over here, you have 2 cup holders, which you can take out or move around, which is nice. And there's a big cup holder down there, which you could put a big gulp if you really wanted to. And over here you just pull this and reveals more space. And this is all kind of soft touch cloth material, which doesn't feel too bad. Coming over here, you just have 2 map lights over here. There's nothing special. You don't have home link or a sunroof. It's kind of weird not having a sunroof, just because I'm used to feeling like there's glass above my head or whatever. So now getting in the back of the Civic hatchback, materials deteriorate in the back as they usually do in compact cars. So this is all plastic over here, but you still have a soft touch cloth armrest. And like I said, the rear windows are not automatic. You have a little bottle holder here or some storage, and one of your speakers over here. Now sitting inside, step-in height is actually kind of low, which is surprising because I have an Accord and this feels a lot lower than it. But in the back, the rear seat is at my preferred driving position. I'm about 5'8", and I have about 2 inches of legroom, and I can fit my feet under the seats, which is nice. You don't have any air vents in the back, which is kind of a bummer, and you just have one dome light over here, and you don't have a center armrest in the Sport Civic hatchback, at least in this particular model. Headroom isn't so bad either. I have about, if I sit normally, if I sit all the way back, I'm kind of touching the ceiling, just my hair is brushing against it, but it's not too bad back here, and I'm pretty comfortable. I think 3 adults would be a pinch, but 2 people or 3 kids would be pretty comfortable. So under the hood of all Civic hatchbacks is a 1.5 liter turbocharged and direct injected 4-cylinder. That's that rattling noise that you hear. That's the direct injection. I I personally don't like it, and a lot of people actually think that there's a problem with the engine, but there's not. And in the Sport with the CVT, it makes 180 horsepower and 166 pound-feet of torque. That's actually pretty hot, especially compared to stuff like a Corolla hatchback, which only makes about 170 horsepower. But still, they're all in the competition, and it actually feels pretty good on the road, even though it is mated to a CVT. And for fuel economy, you should be expecting about 30 miles per gallon in the city, 36 on the highway, and a combined rating of 32, which is pretty decent, especially since this is the Sport. So you do have a little upgraded exhaust, but I know some people will pretty much on a regular basis see closer to 40. Just depends how you drive. And speaking of driving, let's take this thing out on the road. So, getting behind the wheel of the Civic hatchback, this is actually my first time driving the 10th gen Civic, just because before I didn't have my license, so I wasn't able to really do anything. But my first impressions of the Sport hatchback, at least, is that the steering is actually pretty tight, and it's a lot tighter than my Accord, which is I kind of like it. Makes it quick and maneuverable in tight spaces. Going on these bumps, you definitely feel the big 18-inch wheels, at least big for this car. The ride isn't too bad on harsh bumps, but it is noticeable that this is more of a sport-oriented car. Throttle response in regular drive mode is actually pretty good. I don't have any complaints about it, and the seats are actually pretty comfortable while driving. I think I'd have a pretty good time driving pretty reasonably far, but you definitely feel the Sport suspension is just a little bit tuned differently, so you definitely feel that. Brakes are actually pretty nice as well, so that's a plus, at least on my part, just coming at stop signs. And the steering, actually pretty good. I went around a pretty decently tight corner and just took it pretty well. I mean, I took it at about 25 because I'm in my neighborhood, so I don't want to drive like a maniac. And it is nice, especially if you're in the city, if you need a smaller car. I mean, if you really want a small car, I'd go for the Fit, but if you don't want to downsize too much, this is pretty good for most people's needs. At least for me, it's a pretty good daily driver because you get a lot of storage space and stuff. One thing I've noticed, I've had to talk a little bit louder because there is a decent amount of road noise from these tires, which is not really the best thing, but it's not too bad. It's only when you're around normal speeds, which is actually kind of bad. On speed bumps, it's actually pretty compliant. So now we're gonna get a little rip in sport mode. So it's actually kind of quick. Wow, that's quick. Wow, that's actually pretty good. Wow.
Oh my God! Wow! Oh my God!
That's good. It rips. There is turbo lag, but it rips. I mean, it is the CVT, but it does the fake shifts, but it's not like Subaru's how you feel it lag. But it's not bad at all. So I turned off traction control and I'm in sport and I'm gonna dump it. It's actually really good. Wow, this thing gets to 60 fast. Well, it feels fast. So this 1.5 turbo, just like I said, it has 180 horsepower and about 175 to 172 pound-feet of torque, which is actually really good, especially considering that this car is actually pretty light. But I'm actually pretty impressed with how this car handles and how this thing takes the road. So on pretty choppy pieces of pavement, the tires are actually pretty loud. That's why I'm having to talk a little bit higher or a little bit louder than I usually do. The brakes are a little weird, just like they get a little squishy when you first get on them, so that's something you'll have to get used to. So I'm about to get on the highway, so put myself in sport, and you do have paddle shifters. Now going around this little on-ramp in third, it takes the corner really well. There's not that much roll. The only rolling that's going on is in my seat, now in second. So it doesn't let you shift all the way to redline by yourself, but it will let you go. But when the turbo is in, my goodness, this is a little rocket. So I ended up having to talk afterwards because it got way too dark for you guys to see me. So, normal driving isn't too bad, but turbo lag might be strange to some people, at least especially first-time turbo drivers, just because of how you get a random boost of acceleration. And visibility is actually pretty decent. The only noticeable blind spot that I can find is the C-pillar, just because it's really thick. And going back to the ride, it did feel rough on expansion joints and rough pavement, but it wasn't unbearable. I also did try out Honda Sensing, so part of that is low speed follow, and that actually worked pretty well, better than some other products that I've tried, but it could accelerate a little faster when you're coming from a stop. Some induction or some stronger engine noise, just so it sounded a little bit better. But this thing really kicks. It really kicks it. Honda did a good job with this engine. And there are a lot more performance tunes to make this Civic a little bit more powerful, if you please. Now talking about trim levels for this Civic, it starts at the LX, which is $21,450, the Sport, which is $22,250, the EX, which is $23,750, the EXL, which is $26,250, and then the Sport Touring, which is $28,750. All of them come with the 1.5-liter turbo, all of them come with Honda Sensing, but only the Sport comes with a 6-speed manual. I would like to see a 6-speed manual available in the Sport Touring as well, but that's probably not going to happen. Now about competition, it would start at the Corolla Hatchback, which has a 6-speed manual available on both trim levels. Then there's the VW Golf, which has an electric variant known as the e-Golf. Then there's the Chevy Cruze Hatchback, which has an available diesel engine. There's also the Mazda 3, which is a little bit more sporty, and every trim level gets the 6-speed manual, even the high-spec GT model. Then there's the Impreza, which is the only one that has available all-wheel drive and standard all-wheel drive. And finally is the Hyundai Elantra GT, which has an available GT Sport trim level, and that is a little hot hatch. Out of all of them, I would personally go for the Mazda 3 and then the Civic and then the Corolla, just because I like how the Mazda 3 looks and I like the 6-speed manual being an option on every trim level. Well, that brings us to the end of this video, so I hope you guys enjoyed it, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye peeps.